In this tutorial, if you look at the page here on the right, you see that I've got 6 buttons up here. I've got a text area in the center, and this little design here at the bottom, this is actually another button with a background image of the refresh symbol so that you can refresh the page and start the program all over from scratch. So it takes turns running functions with setTimeout and stops any of them with clearTimeout. So let's go over, well actually let me run it so that I can show you the functionality. You click on Eat Veggies. You're having a meal and it's actually timing how long you're eating your veggies. So eat veggies for 6 seconds, 7 seconds, it goes on, and I'm going to take a sip of my beverage. So now it starts a whole new counter in how long I'm swigging on my beverage. I'm going to take a little taste of my fruit here, and it starts a brand new counter for the fruit. And it's also holding these values so that when I go back to eat veggies, it doesn't start at 1, it starts at wherever it left off at. So I'm munching on my veggies. Oh, I think I want a taste of my butter bread. And I'm gnawing on that for a little while. And I really want to get a hold of my meat before it gets cold. So let me eat some meat. And anyway, each one of these buttons is toggling a counter and toggling the background color of the buttons as well. I'm gonna gnaw on some more fruit. Oh, it's so delicious. Yum, 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 yum. Vegetables are so good for me. Oh yes, green leafy vegetables, everything I need and more. Oh, my bread is so garlicky delicious that I just can't leave it alone, even though it's not that good for me. I just can't leave it alone. And the meat, of course, the carnivores that we are, yeah, we have to have it. We just gotta have it. And back to the beverage. Swig, 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 swig. Okay, we're done. Calculate. You ate your veggies for 24 seconds, your meat for 20 seconds, your fruit for 13 seconds, your bread for 15 seconds, and you drank your beverage for 12 seconds. You spent 84 seconds enjoying your meal. Wow, you really huffed it up. You want to run it again, you have to click this refresh symbol down here, this button with the refresh icon in this background. And now you can start all over again. Eat your veggies for a couple of seconds, have some meat, gobble up some fruit, take a swig of whatever deliciousness you're drinking, and have a little bread, and calculate. You ate your veggies for 3 seconds, your meat for 3 seconds, your fruit for 3 seconds, your bread for 4 seconds, and you drank your beverage for 4 seconds. You spent 17 seconds enjoying your meal. Now, if you don't hit the refresh button down here at the bottom, and you just go up here and hit one of these eat meat, fruit, veggies, bread, or drink beverages again, what's going to happen is it's going to tack on whatever your seconds are for what's down here. It's just going to add them on. So now you see you had your veggies for 3 seconds, and now it's incrementing from what this was left off as. So if you hit calculate, this is 15, 16, I'm going to stop at 20, and I'm going to hit calculate. 19, 20, calculate. See, the only thing that's changed is the veggies for 20 seconds. And you still got the meat for 3 seconds, the fruit for 3 seconds, the bread for 4 seconds, and your beverage for 4. Let me do veggies again for 25 seconds. 2, 3, 4, 5, calculate. And as you can see, the only thing that it changed is the veggies. And it gives you your whole new total. You spent 39 seconds enjoying your meal. Now this might seem like a strange little program, but this is getting me prepared for learning animations. And with each different function that I'm going to learn how to animate this and that and the other, I may want to toggle between different things and hold values. And so basically this is just preparing me for more code that I'm going to be learning. So now that I've showed you how this works, let's get to the code. So here is our opening HTML and closing HTML. And let's open up the head. And in the head tags, we have a title, so a set of title tags, trying this out up here in the browser, trying this out. Let's check out the style. I have some of this is a repeat from previous video. I have multiple styles for my text area, and if you want to copy this down, just pause the video and copy it. I have a few styles for my input, and my inputs here are my buttons, these buttons up here. I have a field set now that I didn't have before, and there's the style for the field set, a single style. And the field set is what you can see. It's got this light gray border that kind of encloses visually our other elements. I've got an ID here, this is new, called ID reload page, and that is this button down here at the bottom. I gave this button that ID of reload page and a variety of potential background style. See, I have the possibility of background repeat, no repeat. I Z'd that out because I did want this to repeat. But if I take that background repeat, no repeat off and run my page, you see that I have a background color of pink, and I have one single little swishy here, refresh symbol, because there's different ways I might want to change this button. I might want to, and actually if I have the color, I have the color to pink, but let me change that to maroon. Right now I have no text on the face of this button, but if I put a line here so I can remind myself where I'm at in this, and go down to the actual body at the very bottom, this is that button, input type equals button, ID equals reload page, value equals nothing. If I wanted to give it a value, which is the text on the button, I would put it within the double quotes inside my input type equals button, ID equals reload page, value equals refresh, on click equals reload page. That's calling that function. Now if I refresh my Notepad++ and I refresh my page, you can see that this is another way that I can stylize that button, just so the user understands that this is how you start the program over from the very beginning again. All right, I want to go back to my original refresh, so I'm just going to take this out of the value, and I'm going to save it. So that took the value off of the face of the button, and I'll go back up to the reload page styling. Whoa, the reload page style right here, and what did I change? I'm going to go here and I'm going to misspell background repeat, no repeat, because I want to see more of these. There we go. And I'm not going to read all of this. If you want to copy all this down, just pause the video and jot them all down. I have a B tag for bold, and I gave it a color blue. And how you get, where I used that is if I, let me go ahead and run this for a second. I'm going to have some veggies and a beverage, and that's all I'm eating. I'm going to calculate. You can see where the text "you ate your" and "you spent," those are enclosed in a tag, an opening B tag and a closing B tag. That's just basically a tag that bolds your text output, and I also wanted to colorize it blue. So that's what that was used for. Then I have an ID of calc result, which is the ID for this button right here. I wanted the text calculate to be fatter than all the other text so that it stands out, that it's a different button than all the other ones surrounding it. All right, and that's everything that I've got in the style. So let me close up my style tags, get that out of the way, and let's take a look at the script. Okay, we've got a lot going on with the script here. We create all of these variables. Var function 1 timeout, comma function 2 timeout, comma function 3 timeout, comma function 4 timeout, and comma function 5 timeout, because I've got 5 different buttons here, and we are using the setTimeout for all of them. And to stop the timing, we are using the clearTimeout. So let me move down and look at the other variables that I created. I have var counter veggies equals 0 because when I click eat veggies for 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, there's a variable that's called counter veggies. It starts at 0, and when this function starts, it starts manipulating that. It starts counting up by one for every second that goes by. And I had to do the same thing for all of these buttons, the meat button, the fruit button, the bread button, and the drink beverage button. So I have counter veggies equals 0, var counter meat equals 0, var counter fruit equals 0, var counter bread equals 0, and var counter beverage equals 0. Now, when I hit the calculate button and we get this down here, you get the seconds for each individual button's function. But then we have a grand total here, which takes all of these seconds and adds them together. That's where grand total comes in. Var grand total equals 0. And MSG stands for message, which we create this entire message in this text area by utilizing this variable and doing things and adding things to this variable and then outputting it all here. So anytime we see MSG in the code, that's helping us create this. When we see grand total in the code, that's helping us come up with this number. And then all these other things that have counter in front of it, that's helping us come up with these counters that count every second. Okay, so let's look at function 1. Now function 1 all the way to function 5 are fairly similar. What happens is when I click eat veggies, it makes eat veggies, it's running the code, the function that eat veggies on click event calls, but it also has to make sure that none of these other buttons have been activated. When I click eat meat, I have to deactivate the code that eat veggies on click event is currently running. Right now we're running veggies. When I click eat meat, we have to stop this in its tracks. So I'm going to stop it now at 75 seconds. Okay, so I stopped veggies at 75 seconds and I started to eat meat. When I click eat fruit, I have to make sure that eat meat is deactivated. So I'm going to click eat fruit at 15 seconds. Okay, well I did it at 14, my bad. Now as we go on down the line, each one of these functions, function 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, have to do the exact same thing. So the code is not optimized with nice fancy for loops and if conditions or switch case statements. It is a very kind of long-winded code, each one of these, that I need to take the time to optimize. But right now I just wanted to get the functionality together. Again, when I click eat bread, I have to make sure that eat fruit is deactivated. So I'm going to deactivate it at 44 seconds. There. Now bread is activated. Drink beverage. I'm going to hit drink beverage when eat bread is at 10. There. And then I'm going to hit calculate when drink beverage is at 10. Okay. And the only reason I was trying to pay attention to that is because when I test this, I have to make sure that whatever that number stopped at, it's actually correctly showing in the output. And I believe that those are all correct. So let's look at this function 1. Function 1 is what eat veggies calls. Function 2 is what eat meat calls. It's kind of in order here. Eat fruit, that button, the on-click event for this eat fruit button, calls function 3. Eat bread calls function 4. Drink beverage calls function 5. Calculate button here calls calc result. And then again, this button down here at the bottom with the reload symbols calls function reload page. So let's open up function 1. We're dealing with the veggies. The first thing that happens is counter veggies, the variable counter veggies that we created up here and set to 0 is going to increment by 1. So when we click eat veggies, well, let me hit refresh. When I click eat veggies, the first thing we see is 1 second, because that's the first thing it does, is it counts counter veggies from 0 to 1. Then we take this statement, document.getElement by ID 1.style.background color equals green. So that lets you know that this particular button, I gave the ID equals the number 1. And we did the same thing with the same button by changing the font color to white with document.getElement by ID 1.styleColor equals white. So that this basically colorized the button. First we got the number, the counter going from 0 to 1, then we changed that background color and the font color. Now, because we're clicking from button to button, and you never know which the last button that you clicked, you have to make sure that all the rest of these buttons stay this gray color. When we click this button, we want to make sure all of these stay the same color. So we have document.getElement by ID 2.style.background color equals, and this $CCCCB3 is this gray background that you see. And so for the second button, the eat meat button, which has the ID of 2, the number 2, we gave it the CCCCB3 background color, and document.getElement by ID 2.style color equals black. As you see here, when we gave this button with the ID of 1 the green background, we wanted to give the color white so that it's easier to see. But when we change it to eat meat, we have to turn the eat veggies button back to the gray background with the black color font. And actually this tan background for eat meat, I probably should have left the color to black, because this is kind of like a light color on a light background, but I'm not going to make it the change to it now. Let me go back to eat veggies, because this is what's calling this function that I'm reading, so I'm just going to leave this one here. All right, so this section that I just read is making sure that eat meat has a gray background and a black foreground. This one makes sure that the eat fruit button has this background of CCCCB3 and the font is black. Same thing with the fourth button, document.getElement by ID 4.style.background color equals CCCCB3, document.getElement by ID 4.style color equals black. Same exact thing for the fifth button, the button with the fifth ID, which is this one, the drink beverage. The fourth one was the eat bread. Now here's something a little bit different. Document, no, it's not either. It's basically taken the calculate button, because I did not give this calculate button an ID of 6. I gave it something that would stick out a little bit better. Document.getElement by ID calc result. So this button has the ID of calc result. Style.background color equals CCCCB3, and the document.getElement by ID calc result .style.color equals black. All right, now we have if conditions. If function to timeout. What this is asking is if any of these other buttons are already running. Currently eat veggies is running, but when we first click it, we want to make sure that if any of these are running, that we turn them off. So this first statement says if function to timeout, then clear timeout function to timeout. So this is saying if eat meat is running, then we're going to clear it and stop it from running. And if we stop it from running, if it was running, then we want to make sure that whatever color it was, which if it was eat meat, it was going to have a tan background and a white font, we want to change that to the gray background and the black font. That's if that button was running. Stop it running and change the color. Same thing for the next if condition. If function 3timeout, then clearTimeout, function 3timeout, document.getElement by ID 3.style.background color is CCCCB3, and document.getElement by ID 3.style.color is black. So that's seeing if eat fruit happened to have been running before we hit eat veggies. If, now this is doing the exact same thing. This is if we happen to have had eat bread running and then we hit eat veggies, we want to stop the function 4 timeout for this button. So if function 4 timeout, then clearTimeout, parentheses function 4 timeout. And then the next statement changes the background color from whatever color it was to this gray with a black text. And this is the final one that's asking if drink beverage was running before we clicked eat veggies. Then shut it down and make sure that you change it to gray and black. Now that we've asked the question, have these other buttons, were any of these running before we hit this one? Now that we've done that part, we want to make sure that this is set. So we have function 1 timeout equals setTimeout, parentheses function 1, comma 1000. So what this is doing is we are calling setTimeout to call this function after 1000 milliseconds, which is 1 second, and then we're setting that up in this variable called function 1 timeout, so that when we need to turn it off, we can turn it off like we did up here when we were checking if the other buttons were already running. You use the keyword clearTimeout, and then you put that function, that variable here, this function what timeout that we're creating and turning the delayed function call on, we're going to turn it off with this statement, clearTimeout, function 1 timeout. So that's why we have to do this. We have to have the delayed function call set to a variable so we can shut it off when these other ones need to be turned on. All right. Then we create something for our message. Remember, we sent our message, which is when we hit calculate, that's all this stuff down here. You have to set it up, and we have, because we are talking about our veggies, eat veggies for the value of counter veggies plus a space plus the word seconds. That's what's in this part right here in this text area. Eat veggies for 449, 450, 451 seconds. I'm sorry, that actually doesn't have to be hit with calculate because we're still in the eat veggies function. So I made a mistake when I said that the message was when you click calculate. That's not true. If I refresh this and hit eat veggies, the message is in here. It's in this box, eat veggies for 6 seconds, 7 seconds, 8 seconds. This is the message. That was my mistake. So we set up what's going to be in the message, and then we put it in document.getElement by ID box.value equals message. This text area has an ID of box. So we want to put the message that the variable MSG is holding, we want to stick it in this HTML element where we, because we could stick this eat veggies for 45, 46, 47 seconds. We could stick it anywhere, but we wanted to stick it somewhere in particular, and that's what this text area with the ID of box was created for, to hold message. And that's the end of function 1, veggies. All the rest of these are basically the same, and I really don't want to read all of them, but I will read function 2 briefly just to show you. It's very similar. you just have to revolve your function around this button and make sure that you have the names in there accordingly. So let's look at function 2. When we click eat meat, we're going to take that counter meat variable, and plus plus means we're going to add it up. We're going to add it from 0 to 1. Then we've got document.getElementById1, .style.backgroundColor is CCCCB3, document.getElementById1, .styleColor equals black. We want to make sure that as soon as we clicked eat meat, that this first button was gray and black. Now we're dealing with the button that we just clicked. Document.getElementById2, .style.backgroundColor equals tan, and document.getElementById2, .style.color equals white. If I wanted, and I brought that up, I would prefer that the font was black. I think that would look better. Let me actually run it and see. Yeah, I think that's better with black instead of white font. And all the rest of these are basically making sure that since we're doing the eat meat functionality, we want to make sure that nothing else is colorized. So document.getElementById for the third one has a background color of that gray, and the document.getElementById of the third one, the ID of 3, .style.color equals black. Same thing for the fourth button, same thing for the fifth button. Same thing for the calc result button. And then the if condition. If, and again, now we're talking about the first button. If the first button was already running, which it was before we hit eat meat, well, then I hit this refresh, but before I did all that, if function 1 timeout, then clear timeout function 1 timeout. That stops the counter, that stops this function. And then make sure that the color is gray and black. If function 3 timeout, which means that this third button is running, then clear it, clear timeout, function 3 timeout, and make sure that the colors are gray and black. If function 4 timeout, which is the delayed function call for the fourth button click event, then clear timeout, function 4 timeout, stop it from running, and make sure that the background is gray and the color of the font is black. If function 5 timeout, then clear timeout, function 5 timeout, document.getElementById 5.style.backgroundColor equals gray, document.getElementById 5.style.color is black. And here, function 2 timeout, this is the function call, the delayed function call. This all happens so fast that as soon as we click it, you're seeing this operate. But this isn't actually turning on until right here. This is the function call. This is what's calling the function. Until we get to this line 135, this doesn't start, these numbers don't start moving. So at this point, function 2 timeout equals setTimeout, parentheses function 2, comma 1000. What it means is in 1 second, we are going to call the function 2 timeout. I'm sorry, we're going to call the function with the name of function 2, and then that information is going to be in the variable called function 2 timeout, so that when we're ready to turn it off, we can use the variable function 2 timeout to clear it out. Here is the message, the variable called message, eat meat for plus whatever the counter meat value is. Right now it's going up to almost 260 seconds. So as this is bumping up and up and up, that message, this value is constantly changing, and it's going in this message variable. So then document.getElementById box dot value equals message. It's containing it in this text area with the ID of box. And that's the end of function 2 for the meat. I don't want to read 3, 4, and 5 because it's the same thing as 1 and 2. Like I said, you just have to make sure that you are revolving your code around eat fruit, eat bread, or drink beverage, and making sure that all these other ones are being shut down. Let's look at function calc result. Function calc result, what happens when you click calculate, it calls function calc result, and you take document dot get element by ID box dot value equals nothing. Let's see. Do you see for a second that went to nothing? I don't know why I had to double click it to make it go to nothing, but the first thing that happens is this box clears out so that you don't see anything else moving or any leftover information in there. We clear it out. Then we have this little math problem here. We take the variable grand total and we set that equal to whatever the value for counter veggies is, plus counter meat, plus counter fruit, plus counter bread, plus counter beverage. All those little numbers right here that built up down here are being added up and put into the variable grand total for us to use further down here at the bottom of that. This statement right here, document.getElement by ID, parentheses and double quotes, calc result dot style dot background color equals blue, is making sure that when we click this calculate button, it changes from gray to this blue background. And this statement, document.getElement by ID, parentheses and double quotes, calc result dot style dot color equals white, ensures that the text calculate is nice and white, so that a nice white set of letters is over top of a dark blue background. Black letters over a dark blue background would be more difficult to read. And then we have the next line here. Clear timeout. Now we're going to, when we click the calculate button, we have to make sure that all of these eat veggies, eat meat, eat fruit, eat bread, and drink beverage, that all of these functions are shut off. There's only going to be one of them running at a time, because each time we hit a button, it checks with if conditions to shut off anything else that was running beforehand. But this is going to clear timeout for all of them, because we don't know which one of these we hit last before we hit calculate. So just to be on the safe side, we shut everything down. So if whatever happens to be running, all gets shut down. So that's where we get this whole code block here. Clear timeout, function 1 timeout, make sure that if eat veggies is running, it's shut off. And also we are going to make sure that the background is gray and the color is black. So you see we have a lot of repeat code going on here, so there's a lot of room for optimization with this program. Then we have the clear timeout, parentheses, function 2 timeout statement, which if eat meat was running right before I hit calculate, it's going to shut that down, and it's going to make sure that that button is gray and black. Then we're going to clear the timeout for the function 3 timeout, just in case the eat fruit was running right before we clicked calculate. And we're going to make sure that that particular button has the background of gray and the color of black. Now we're going to clear timeout, parentheses, function 4 timeout, just in case the eat bread was running right before you hit calculate. Then we're going to make sure that that button that has the ID of 4, document.getElement by ID 4.style.background color equals CCCCB3, which is that gray, and document.getElement by ID number 4 in parentheses double quotes .style.color equals black. Then we have a clear timeout of the function 5 timeout, which is the drink beverage button. If it's running right before we hit calculate, we're going to clear it. We're going to stop it at its tracks. Clear timeout, function 5 timeout. Document.getElement by ID 5.style.background color equals, that's that gray, and document.getElement by ID 5.style.color equals black. Now we got this big long string. We've got this part, the left hand of the equal sign. Document.getElement by ID end result. That is all of this stuff here. I have a span tag. See, it looks like this is not enclosed in the text area. I could have put it in the text area, but I chose to put it below the timers. I left this text area just for the timers and the little string that went along with the timers, and I wanted the results to show up somewhere different. I could make these results show up right here. I could do that just as well. But instead it's in a span tag, and when I get into the code in the body, you'll see the span tag that's not visible initially. There's no border or anything for it. It just shows up down here. But anyway, the document.getElement by ID, that span tag has an ID of end result dot inner HTML equals, and all of this is in a string, so it's in a single quote. You can use single quote or double quote. I happen to use single quote. A break tag, so that we move down a line underneath this text area. A B tag, which gives us this bold lettering, and I also stylized the B tag to have this blue color. And then the text, you ate your, and that's also inside of that B tag, you ate your, you see you ate your. And then you have another break tag, which makes you move down a line. And then you have the words veggies for and a space. And then you concatenate with the plus sign the variable name counter veggies plus, so now we're going to get whatever the number is for counter veggies, plus we're going to add that string, a space, seconds, so veggies for however many seconds. Then we have a break tag that goes down a line, the word meat for and a space, and then we're going to concatenate the value, whatever the number is that counter meat represents, and then we're going to add the word seconds. So that's how we get meat for 407 seconds. A break tag takes us down a line, fruit for and a space. So we went down a line, then we did fruit for and a space, and then whatever number that counter fruit represents, and then we add a space and the word seconds. So we have fruit for 0 seconds. Then we have this break tag that goes down another line, and we have the word bread for and a space, and then we're going to add whatever number value that counter bread stands for, and then a space and the word seconds. So then that gives us bread for 0 seconds. The break tag goes down another line, and then we have the words and you drank your beverage for, and then we add whatever numeric value counter beverage variable represents, which in this case it's 0, and you drank your beverage for 0, and then you concatenate the word seconds. You've got a break tag that goes down to the next line. We've got those B tags again that's going to give us a bold font and the color blue. You spent, with a colon. You're going to have another break tag to take you down to the next line, plus grand total, plus seconds enjoying your meal. So you spent, down the next line, 407 seconds enjoying your meal. And there's the ending semicolon for that really long, that's one statement. This whole thing is one statement, and it gives us all of this stuff right here. And that's the end of the function calc result. So when we click calculate, that's what it does. That's how you get all of that in here. And so I can close out of that function. And function reload page is really, really short, and that's what this button down here deals with this background image of refresh. We have document.getElement by ID, box.value equals, and we have an empty string. This is when we click this reload down here, this text area with the ID of box clears out. Whatever happened to be sitting in there before goes away. And then we have the second statement that says window.location.reload. And that's the end of that function and the end of the script. So I've done everything in the script now, all the scripts that create the functionality of this page. So I can close that out. And I've looked at everything in the head, so I can close the head. Now we've got a couple of things in the body. We have a field set, and we have underneath the field set, we have that button, which I told you, it's that refresh button. If I read the button, just this bottom button first, you have input type equals button, ID equals reload page, value equals nothing. Again, if I were to put hello there as the value and refresh this and refresh this, you can't hardly see it. It's very difficult to see text over top of pictures like that, but that's what the value would be. I even tried different colors like lime or yellow or white, and this background image is just really horrible for any type of text over top of it, so I prefer to put no value on that button and just leave it that image. The on-click event for this button is reload page, and I already went over the function to reload the page. So now let's look in the field set. That's everything that's inside of this nice little lined section. Let's open that up. We've got a legend. Usually when you have field sets, you have legends, and the legend is like the little caption on top. And it says taking turns running functions with setTimeout and stopping any of them with clearTimeout. And this is it right here. This is the legend. Now here is our first button. That's the Eat Veggies button here. Input type equals button, ID equals the number 1, value equals Eat Veggies, onClick equals function 1. Next button, input type equals button, ID equals the number 2, value equals Eat Meat, onClick equals function 2. So when you click that one, that's the function that gets called. Input type equals button, ID equals 3, value equals Eat Fruit, onClick equals function 3. Input type equals button, ID equals 4, value equals Eat Bread, onClick equals function 4. Input type equals button, ID equals 5, value equals Drink Beverage, onClick equals function 5. Input type equals button, ID equals Calc Result, value equals Calculate, and onClick equals Calc Result. So again, when you have the onClick event of this calculate button, it's calling the calc result function. And I have a break tag right here just to make sure that this text area underneath flows under it and doesn't want to float off to the side. So then here's the text area, which is this little rectangle that the second statements usually go in. Text area ID equals box, disabled, and end text area. It's disabled so that the user can't click in here and type. They don't need to type in here. This is for output only. This is not being used for input in this program. Here's that span I was telling you about that you can't physically see. It's only when you hit calculate that the span opens up and gives you all your information. Span ID equals end result and span tag. If I were to put some kind of little gobbledygook right here and save it in Notepad++ and refresh the page, you would actually see this is where the span tag is. And then when you hit calculate, it replaces that gobbledygook with the information that we're creating. But I don't really want to see anything there, so I'll take that out. All right, so that was the span, and that's the end of the filled set. And with that being the end of the filled set, I already read this final input, and one last time, input type equals button, ID equals reload page, value equals nothing, on click equals reload page, and that's this button right here that once we hit calculate, if we want to start it fresh from the beginning, where all of these start at 0, then this starts us at the beginning. If I run this, eat meat, drink beverage, eat bread, eat fruit, eat veggies, drink beverage, eat meat, blah, blah, blah. I'm going back and forth on my plate. Then I calculate. If I just click this refresh up here, wait, there was a specific reason I created my own refresh button. Let me try this again. Eat meat, drink beverage, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's do this. I haven't clicked calculate, but let's just refresh the page, even though this is running right now. Let's hit refresh. That's why I created my own refresh button, because when you refresh it without clicking calculate, this does not clear out. This text area data does not clear out from just clicking refresh. When I click this, however, it does clear this box out. So that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be a clean interface between refreshes, whether you hit this calculate button or not. So that's what this extra thing did. Because you think, why do you need to create a refresh button when there's a refresh button built in the browser? And that was my rationale behind that. All right, so I've went through everything top to bottom. There's the end of the body, the end of the HTML, and that concludes this particular tutorial. Again, you could take this and you can use this for a variety of different things. It doesn't have to, this seems like such a simple and silly tutorial, but it's showing you functionalities and how you could bounce from a button's functionality to another and keep a running tally of whatever it is. In this case, we were keeping a running tally of seconds going by as you're eating particular pieces of your meal, and then calculating how long you took to eat your meal and how much time you spent on each part of your meal, which is, well, it's kind of a strange thing, but you can change this into whatever your imagination could possibly change it into and use it for something different.